Can't hear you, Wendy.
Tell you what, let's jump straight to Hamish while we're trying to work out that. Yeah, Hamish, do introduce yourself and tell us. Let's let everyone know a bit more about yourself. You're wonderful.
Okay, so yeah, my name's Hamish, and obviously, as Emma just said, we all met in the Property Graduate a little under a year ago now. God, time has flown. At that time, I was living in Barcelona, and I was running a rent-to HMO, although I preferred co-living because I was actually creating more of a community amongst my tenants there, doing various activities rather than just providing a room. I would arrange for them to go and do things like beach volleyball, paella cooking classes, and always had an introduction anytime we had a new tenant coming in. So it was a little bit more than just renting out a room. But since the Property Graduate, opportunities just seem to be far more available in the UK, especially having met such a great network of people from the show. So I came back, and since then I've sort of been re-strategizing, doing up my business plan, and now I am trying to finalize the purchase of a flip project, which is actually a short lease down in the Oxfordshire area. And I've just taken on a rent to serviced accommodation, which is actually in Coventry, so about an hour from where I live. So these are the two areas that I'm really looking in, rent to serviced accommodation and flips around Oxfordshire.
Wow, we got lots to chat about then, Hamish. There's some things I definitely need to ask you about that. Fantastic. Well, thanks for that intro. That is brilliant. Wendy, can we hear you now?
Yes, I found the unmute button. Apologies for that.
Thank goodness. I was getting a little bit panicked then. But yeah, brilliant. Hi, lovely to see you, Wendy. Yeah, do introduce yourself.
Yes, great. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me along this afternoon. So Wendy's Ned and Forget Me Not Properties, my sister and I set up the business about 5 years ago. We did a property education and then started with buy-to-lets, moved into serviced accommodation, and we've done a commercial to residential conversion. We turned that into serviced apartments, and we've kept hold of those. And we're now looking at commercial deals, and like you, Emma, Aparthotels, we're just in the process of negotiating on I think it's 12 bedrooms at the moment. We'll probably turn it into 15 bedrooms. So that's quite exciting.
Amazing. Wow, gosh, aren't we a stunning group of people? I just love this. It's funny, isn't it, guys, when we did I don't know if you had any preconceived sort of thoughts about the Property Graduate. I don't know why. I just thought, I'll give it a go, and I thought, I'm bound not to get on, but it's useful to do. And then since that, I think us as a group, I just really love. The main thing I think is seeing everyone else and what they're up to and what they're doing. What do you guys sort of find from it?
Yeah, I think same as you. I think the community that we've created as a group has been great. The support we've given each other throughout that. And I think when I decided to go for it, I was really, really nervous, wasn't really sure, if it was the right thing to do. But like with anything you do in property, it always leads you to meet more people in property. And I think I could talk about property all day. So, to be able to, we spent a lot of time together over the days of filming, and that was fantastic. And since then, we've met up a few times, and that's been great as well. And yeah, I think again, so, a supportive group.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah. I was very nervous going on the show. All I thought was, is this going to be a reality TV show where I'm made to look like, I don't know, some fool, but going along, and one of the things I found about the show is it did put us under a certain amount of pressure. I did a huge amount of study, research, deal finding, networking, all focused around that. And then actually some of the best information I got was from the people on the day, meeting the other contestants, meeting you guys. And like you say, the support, I felt I've received since then and hopefully have given back as well has been inspiring and really, really great. It's driven me forward. So it definitely was worthwhile.
Amazing. It was also, there's one thing for me as well that I don't know, I have this kind of thing with people in authority. I don't know if it falls back to school kid days, but just looking at the three judges, I was just always like absolutely terrified, and kind of didn't really feel like I had any place to talk to them. And I remember one of the mornings, I can't remember which one it was, but Fiona was going to her car, and obviously I said hi. Felt a little bit nervous because she was kind of like, felt to me like almost the most scariest. And she was like, oh yeah, come on, tell me about your Aparthotel. And again, just like any other property investor, she was genuinely really interested. And then she was so lovely. She came down to our case study day, and she was really helpful as well, because obviously she's so experienced and got so much knowledge. So that kind of was a really good one for me. I kind of got over this kind of thought that she was, you know, this, somebody that I couldn't approach, and she's just so approachable, so lovely, and yeah, just a really great person. I mean, the other two are as well, but I've seen her more since then, so I love it.
Yeah, no, it was really nice. I mean, having a chat to them at the end of the day's filming. I think I was not living in the country. I was reliant on other people to give me a lift, and so I was hanging around when everyone else had gone, and got to chat to Fiona and Helen, and it was just a different persona. They what they had to do in front of the camera was kind of judge us. They were there to be judges, and then afterwards when they weren't judging us, it was they seemed like really great people to be able to have a conversation with and just talk property, which we all love.
Yeah, I don't think they were as harsh either, because I think during the day they were quite harsh, weren't they, at times? I think we all walked out after one of the sessions going, oh my gosh, I don't know why I came on this show. They're going to depict me in this most horrific way. And there were times when, like we've spoken about, haven't we? We really like niche on certain areas. And some of the things that they were asking were on areas that are not your own niche, or you're not used to that. So it was a bit extreme at times, wasn't it? I love it.
But it was good. I feel it definitely pushed me, and it's that was one of the things that's sort of taken me to a different level now.
Yeah, I agree. I think my biggest thing to come out of it was confidence. That was, to have those kind of people talk positively about you was quite overwhelming, really, for me. I think that's certainly a mindset thing that I have to work on, is to not feel I've a lot of imposter syndrome, and so to be in that kind of room, and there were hundreds of people that applied, and we were chosen for whatever reason, so there must have been something there, mustn't there? So
exactly.
I think for me, one of the things I got from it was learning how to appraise deals really quickly. And I think I met John Howard on I went to his training course prior to applying. And so I'd met him, and it was just really interesting understanding how he appraises deals. And so like Hamish, I spent a lot of time practicing appraising and getting it down to that fine art where I could look at something and, say pretty quickly whether I thought it was a goer or not. But on the day, like a different fish, wasn't it?
Yeah, on the day when you've got to then reiterate your findings and give background for it as well. It's and within a certain amount of time. It's a high pressure situation.
Yeah, really. I mean, I think all of us had, unique, obviously there were unique deals to do with, and from what we were going through it with the limited time, it felt fine. But when you were sort of questioned, and with the pressure, I know I can see we've got I think Craig in the room as well. He's been on one of these things, and under that pressure, it really was quite a lot to deal with. And I know they wanted me to say something, and they even called me back in to see if I would say it. Clearly I didn't. I was just like, this is what I think. I'm not going to suddenly go back on it, but anyway, no, classic. Well, we'll look forward to seeing how everyone else does this next year. So Okay, so let's catch up, and guys, do feel free to, you know, oh, Craig said you can forget your own name under that pressure. I'm so pleased, Craig, you said that.
It's so true. You really can. I mean, some of the simple questions, I was like, I'm not sure. I even forgot to take my workings back in when after doing the deal assessment.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Well, let's catch up, guys, with what you're up to, and please, you know, everyone, we'll sort of keep the room sort of closed until about sort of between 20 past and half past, but if you want to jump up and join in, please do feel free. Ask questions in the chat. If you've got any questions, it would be great to get involved. It is networking, but we're having a good catch up as well. So come on then, Wendy, let me know about these projects that you've got going on. So I'm really interested to hear sort of a bit more about your past, and clearly very interested in your Aparthotel as well, because I'd love to hear all those learnings. So yeah, I'd love to just hear quickly about that commercial to resi conversion that you did into SA. Do you mind sharing a bit about that?
No, not at all. Yeah, so we were just kind of starting out. We've been looking at buy-to-lets, and every time we turned up at a viewing, there were loads of people there who were on our training course. So we were competing, you know, with a lot of people for these below market value, you know, ideal properties. So we started to think, you know, how else could we do this differently? So we then did a property training on distressed property, and it kind of opened our eyes to these, you know, some of these bigger empty buildings, and that property training on. Oh, I'm getting a bit of feedback there. So we put an advert in a local Facebook group saying, you know, we're looking for empty buildings, and within a few hours we got a message back from a lady who had a building, had planning permission to convert it to residential, but was retiring from being in property. She'd taken ill, and so we went to view it, and then, you know, a few months later we owned the property, and it was offices but very run down, had been empty for a long time. Planning permission to convert into 4 apartments. We were lucky the building was already laid out nicely. It had the staircases in situ. Most of the rooms were already divided up, you know, in the right proportions. So it was just a case of going in, you know, ripping out the crap and then putting in kitchens, bathrooms, and all that kind of stuff. And initially our plan was to sell the properties, but anyone who's done a big project like this, they never runs to time. So we were 12 months over.
Oh no.
Dog coming in to say hello. Yeah, we ran 12 months over. We also, big mistake, utilities. So electricity wise, we were fine. Water, there was a supply coming in. It wasn't until the plumber had fitted everything, he said, I'm not sure there's enough water coming in to supply the whole of this building. So we then spent about 8 months figuring out how we were going to get water, another supply into the building, because it's on a main street. We didn't own the basement of the building. We just owned the first and second floor of the building.
Oh no.
So it was an absolute nightmare trying to figure it all out, but we got there in the end, and we probably spent another 30 grand just getting that sorted. So by the time we then came to sell, what happened was the Help to Buy scheme was in place, and suddenly the people that would have been interested in these as first-time buyers, it was much more attractive to go and buy a brand new house down, you know, on the local housing estate. Suddenly the market was flooded with flats, so we were like, crap. So they were on the market for a few months, and then we thought, right, what are we going to do with this? This is, you know, these are costing us money now. And so we put 2 of them up for rent, and we decided to give serviced accommodation a go. Did the training with Hayley Andrews and Paul Andrews, Your Freedom Empire, learned all about how to run serviced accommodation and got them set up, and they went really, really well. So when the tenants that we had in decided to move on, we made all 4. So we've got now this nice little block of 4 apartments that run as serviced accommodation. We've outsourced everything, so management's outsourced.
Who do you use, if we might ask? Is it a local company or is it a national?
No, it's a local company. So a chap who was on the same training as us. So he came kind of through that network. He was already running a few of his own. He works with contractors, so they were his main contacts. And that was great. So it meant through the pandemic, you know, he managed to keep them filled. And they've been working really well.
Amazing. And are they 1 beds, 2 beds? What sizes are?
Yeah, 4 flats. So they're nice. Yeah.
Amazing. God, that sounds like a great project, but huge amounts of learning for you.
I think at the time, it was quite stressful. We can look back and laugh now. But would I do it again? Yeah. But with the learnings, you know, that we've got put in place, always get your utilities checked out first.
Absolutely. Yeah, that is a scary thing. And have you had your done your capital allowances on that project?
That's underway.
Amazing. Because that should be very lucrative, shouldn't it, for that?
Yes.
Amazing. Okay, so yeah. So moving on to your current project with the Aparthotel, how's that come about, and what made you sort of go down that route?
Yeah, so we've been looking at kind of doing more serviced apartments, but maybe I think what we've learned is we've got some individual properties, and it's actually much easier to look after 4 of the properties that are together. So we could see more and more people moving towards doing that, buying blocks. Up in Scotland, we've got licensing now, so you know it's becoming more and more difficult to get the one-off apartments. So that's what led us to start looking at serviced accommodation in that way. We came across a former guest house. The owners are retiring, so we're just kind of in negotiations with, you know, how we might take it over for a couple of years and then purchase it after a couple of years of trading. So, you know, it doesn't need a lot of work. We just need to put some bit more facilities in and look at the communal spaces and decide what we're going to do with those, whether we can sublet them for another purpose or whether we convert those into bedrooms. So that's quite exciting. We're also looking at bigger holiday homes. So again, places where you could rent the whole house. We've got a beautiful project up in Inverness, which is it's ongoing. We're just in the process of getting ready to do a crowd fundraise to raise money to get that one off the ground. So that's quite exciting as well.
Oh my gosh, just in one short few minutes, I've got so many questions. I'm like, quick, where's the time? I don't want to run out of time. We're definitely going to have to get us all back on here again. So did you say, what I think we might do is just, I'm really aware of time, is we'll just hear from Hamish and about his things, and then we'll come back and and ask lots of questions as well, if that's all right. Hold that thought. But amazing. So is it actually, just before we go, have you actually got the option agreement on it, or is it still in negotiations?
Still in negotiation, but it's going well.
Fantastic. We love it. Okay, Hamish. So tell us a bit more. Obviously, you'd mentioned that you had rent at HMO in Barcelona. That's the one I was looking for. I kept thinking Madrid. Just tell us what's happening now, kind of thing.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so when we met on the show, I was out in Barcelona and I came back specifically for the show. And rent to HMO over there, the difficulties are, the negotiations in Spanish, things like that. In terms of regulation, there is near to none. So I was looking at the UK sort of standard regulations and making sure I set to that, expecting it to at some point be regulated. And I figured that if you can be up to UK standards out there, then you'd be safe. But I came back, did the show, and of course we suddenly had a high pressure situation. At first I thought I had a month to find a deal just in case I got through to the final. So I started, amongst my study, I was going out, speaking to agents, doing my research, and looking for deals. And I came across 3 really good deals in quick succession, and actually we put in bids for all of them. The 2 that were the bigger and better ones, they were commercial conversions. definitely a bit out of my league at the time. You know, I hadn't had any sort of experience with commercial properties at all, but I had investors interested in them. Actually, John Howard was interested in investing in those ones, and had we got those, they would have been there would have been anywhere between 500 and 700,000 profit to me as a joint venture partner in it. So, but unfortunately, we missed out by a £20,000 bid in best and finals, which was devastating.
Oh, no.
But that was what gave me the nudge to come back. And actually, the third deal, I did have my offer accepted on, and everything was slowly ticking forward on that. Whilst I decided to move back from Barcelona, and this one was a short lease. Now everything looked fantastic at the rate. You know, we had our primary exit strategy was to sell, but it would have been very good as a buy-to-let as a secondary option. And then all of a sudden, Liz Truss got into power, and as we all know, the market changed a little bit. The interest rates went up, and my joint venture partner decided that it was too risky. So I had to offer less money, and that took several months of constantly being, you know, going back to the agent, discussing with them, and until eventually the vendor accepted the new lower offer.
Oh,
so
that's amazing.
Got it for an extra 20,000 less. So that's what we're going through now, and we are literally coming up to being able to exchange contracts. We do have bridging finance potentially in place for that, so we're looking at that. But it is one that personally I'm actually starting to look for private investment on, because it would be nice to start working with some private investors who would then be interested in going in on this deal, which has got you know, a nice return, and we can offer a good return for their money on that, and then potentially work with them on future projects going forward as well.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I thought you were gonna say, and then it didn't happen. Like you sound like it all went much more swimmingly. The whole you know, debacle that happened in that final quarter last year, we lost a deal that had been going on for 8 or 9 months, so that was very, very sad and upsetting.
Well, we nearly did. It was nearly gone. You know, well, my joint venture partner, it still would have worked. It was just a little bit more on edge. My joint venture partner is quite risk averse, so we pulled out, and but didn't just pull out. I mean, at that point, I said, you know, I was very apologetic to the agent. I said, look, I want you to know that this is the market situation at the moment. We don't feel confident that we can carry on, but we'd still love to do it. And at that point, I put forward a lower offer, but I said, look, we can continue with the same offer, even add a bit more if they're interested in doing a purchase lease option. But presented the purchase lease option perhaps incorrectly, because the agent doesn't really understand what the purchase lease option is, and therefore wasn't going to put it to the vendor properly. So that didn't go ahead. I've learned how to you know, to sell that a little bit better these days. But eventually, you know, I just kept staying in touch with the agent, taking them biscuits, you know, taking them a little Christmas present, and saying, hey, we're still here, you know, do you think they're interested now? And eventually he actually, I think, started pushing my corner with the vendor, saying that this is the best option. No one else is coming in with anything of interest. If you want to get rid of it, give it to Hamish. So she did. She's come back, and yeah, we're trying to get the final bits of paperwork. But this is a short lease project.
Yeah, tell us. I was going to find out more about that, because I'm looking at some of these with my sons. So they are, well, I say they, by huge encouragement from their mother, would like to get into property, and around us there's some really good 1 to 2 bed conversion opportunities, but quite a few of them have got short leases. So tell us all about it. It.
Well, okay. So perfect. I mean, that's exactly the sort of project that often do quite well. I mean, the one I've got is all about the purchase number and then just the extending the. But
how long is the lease currently?
the lease is currently 61 years.
Okay, so you're still in that
for
60-year, because isn't it something to do with above 60 years? It's not, you know, there are certain less limitations than if it's below 60 years.
Well, typically what it is it's actually the lenders who put the restrictions on these things. So for those who don't know, a lease of less than 80 years starts getting you issues with lenders. And a lot of lenders, particularly your standard high street lender, will not give a mortgage on a property that has less than 80 years lease. And therefore, the agents and everyone starts putting it out to cash buyers only. Once it gets to 60 years, then you get a reduction in the amount of lenders who will let lend. And again, once it's down to 50 years, even less. No one will give any kind of loan on anything that's about 12 to 15 years. So that basically don't buy a property of at least that's that short. But it is a relatively straightforward process, as long as you have a solicitor who's experienced in it. And what you'll need to do, I mean, there are a couple of methods to do it, but the way we're going forward is my solicitor. I have a solicitor who is specialised in lease extensions, and so they've written up the Section 42 notice. Now, in the purchase, we will have it in the contract that the vendor solicitor has to then send this Section 42 notice off to the freeholder, but have it assignable to us. If you don't do this, then you have the risk of it taking 2 years before you're allowed to start the process. But you do have to make sure that you've got the Section 42 notices being completed and has been made assignable and is done on from the vendor and is then assignable to you, because otherwise you don't have a right to serve this notice to a freeholder until you've owned a property for 2 years.
And does the freeholder have to acknowledge receipt? Do they have to have agreed it? How far along in the process do you have to do it before you can complete on the purchase?
So once you've you send the Section 42 notice out with the exchange of contracts. So the contract to be done, the vendor will then send out the Section 42 notice, and once that has been done, then you will be able to complete, and that Section 42 notice is assignable to you. From the date that the Section 42 notice is sent, the freeholder then has 2 months where they are allowed to have 2 months before they respond. So and within 2 months, whatever you have put forward as a figure, a negotiation figure, they can come back and say, yes, okay, we accept that, or no, we don't accept it and we want a higher amount. Now, this should all have been assessed by your surveyor. You send in a surveyor, they do the calculations for you, and they will give you a negotiation range. They'll give you a lower end and then a higher figure, which they know defendable in a tribunal should the freeholder put up any protests.
Wow, that sounds exciting. That's there is quite a lot there, isn't it? But it just sounds like, because that's sort of it's interesting that you're on. I'm really hoping to get Jason Patterson on, because he's fabulous. Just to find, because Bernie Wales, isn't it? He's the big one on YouTube, yeah. But he's retired or retiring.
Well, you certainly can't get hold of him. That's
no.
So
yeah, exactly. But I know that Bernie deals with much sort of a wider scope, whereas Jason is much more kind of 3-4 flats in a block type thing that he really likes. So for me, it's been this quarter is this first half of the year is sort of really learning about that. Where did you go and get your sort of information for short leases and this kind of stuff? And is it inherently, you seem really confident? It sounds like you've just got a really great power team who are experienced. Is that kind of giving you that confidence?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I did a lot of research, online research, and looked at Bernie Wales, and did a lot of looking online. And it's going to miss my memory now while I'm talking to you on here. But there is a website that a government website that gives you all of the details that you really need on it. But then the next thing, I found a surveyor in the area who an expert in doing lease extensions, and then got a recommendation from him for who to use as a solicitor. And the rest of it was talking with the solicitor and having them just sort of reaffirm the things that I had learned, and everything sort of fit into place with what I'd studied on. So I did the self-training, and then had it backed up by a professional.
Wow, amazing. And do you mind sharing some of the sort of numbers around it, Hamish?
Yeah, so the initial asking price for the property was 200,000. My first offer that I put in was 160, but then that has now been reduced to 140.
Wow.
Accepted. So a big reduction there. The lease extension, we're putting in an offer. We're suggesting 25,000 to extend the lease. However, the worst case scenario we're expecting is 36,000 plus their legal fees. So we budgeted 40,000 for the lease extension. And then once it has been extended, the average property of similar size in that area should sell. We've gone in at about 250,000, though the surveyor who did our premium sort of appraisal, he to see how much it would cost. He is also a RIT surveyor, and very nice guy. Quite happily volunteered a little bit of extra information to us and suggested that actually we really undervalued the property, and he would expect it to go for 270 to 275,000. Wow. So I think our worst case scenario is we should be looking at about a 28% return on investment, but best case we might be getting 45%.
Amazing. And it sounds like a no money left in deal as well.
Yeah, well, it certainly would be if at the moment we're probably thinking we want to sell it. I need to look into more service accommodation options for it to see whether that would cover. But as a buy to let, it's a little. I think we'd have to have a 50% loan to value on it to be able to cover the interest rates at the moment.
And what is it? Sorry, we never asked. Is it like a two-bed or one bed?
Yeah, two beds, both en suite, and then there's
Does it need much work doing to it?
It literally, it just need. We're going to do a soft refurb, so paint throughout, fresh paint throughout, make it look a little bit more stylish than it does in the moment, and then change the cupboard doors. The cabinets are in really good condition, so it'll be just take off the doors and attach new ones. And then I was actually thinking just a simple laminate coating for the kitchen work surfaces, and just as much as anything, a nice soft, fairly low cost refurbishment, because the rest of the property is in great condition.
Amazing. Well, it sounds like a great deal there. And is it in Oxford? Sorry to interrupt, Wendy.
Yeah, it's a little bit south of Oxford. Yeah, so very much a Oxford commuter town, even London commuter belt from that area.
So was the challenge in selling it then for the owners because of the short lease, and that's why you got it at such a good price?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so the agents from day one have just put investors, cash buyers only on there.
Right.
So that scared a huge amount of people off, and people don't know the process of extending a lease. If you don't know how to do it, then it can be quite a dangerous area to go into, because freeholders in certain cases can be quite ruthless, and the longer they make the more money they can make out of it. Mm-hmm. And so, of course, as I say, if you don't know that how to get that Section 42 notice sent out and assigned, and if you want to do it yourself, which many people would try and do, then they will look for just even a spelling mistake, and that can set you back 2 years. So yeah, it's knowing the process, and actually the vendor seems to have not understood the process herself, because she seems to be an international investor who's come in and has bought the place cash, thinking, great, it's got about 70 years on it, not realizing that actually she's already in the danger zone.
Interesting. Sounds like a opportunity to join the Authors Club and write a book about it, Hamish.
Well, yeah, it has taught me a lot, and it is a strategy that I think is something that I would be very much interested in going forward with. I mean, there are talks about them changing the whole the leaseholder, sort of system in the United Kingdom, which I think would be a fantastic thing to do, because so many people get themselves in trouble not really understanding what leasehold is. And I've met people in the past, just sort of, who've been property owners, and they've been like, yes, it's great, I've got a whole 70 years of this property, and you're making money. And I'm like, yeah, but you do realize that the value then disappears. Oh, right, I didn't know that. So yeah, there's a lot of miseducation on it, or lack of education on it, and I think that needs to change. But in the meantime, it is a good strategy to go forward with. And to be honest, I think with the freeholders out there, there's a lot of wealth and a lot of power behind it. A lot of people who are making money as freeholders. I don't see there being any easy changes in the near future.
I completely, I was going to say that. I think there's a lot of very old money tied up in freeholds. So it would be interesting if they do get that over the line. So that's an interesting. Wow. Well, Hamish, that's amazing. Obviously, in my heart of hearts, I genuinely think it would be an amazing opportunity to run that as SA, but obviously you're going to see how it goes. So
well, I need to do a bit more research on the SA, and now I've got the rental SA that I'm up and running now, and starting to put that out on the market. Now I'll do a little bit more research on this one just south of Oxford, and see whether or not that can work as well. Ultimately, I like the idea of holding on to property. My partner at the moment, he just kind of wants to get the big cash profit and then recycle and go again.
Maybe you could do a one for me, one for you. Start on
yeah.
Maybe,
Perhaps.
Mightn't it? Maybe that would work. And then at least you start keeping, and he would feel comfortable as well.
Yeah.
Maybe. Amazing. Yeah, exactly. Wendy, let's I'm hoping to come back as well, Hamish, to find out more about your rent to rent as well. But let's with your apart hotel. You also, I wonder, Wendy, whether you might give us a bit of an information about the SA licensing in Scotland. I know I read the whole thing when it came out, and I remember thinking, oh, one of them was if you had more than 5 apartments in a block, then it wouldn't count. And so where are they at now? What has been implemented?
It's different in every region. Every local authority is putting their own criteria. So in Edinburgh, they're being very strict. In some of the other areas, they're kind of not as strict. So essentially, we need to have planning permission for change of use to be able to use the property as serviced accommodation. And then we also need to apply for a license. So it's a bit like the landlord registration scheme. You register the property, and then you're going to have to provide evidence that it's been rented out as a holiday home for a certain number of days. And again, that's varying across local authorities. So wherever you're purchasing and setting up service accommodation, then you need to kind of check in with the local authority and find out what those area rules are.
Is it going to be easy to reverse it, for instance? So let's say you had somewhere and you wanted, you gained the planning. Is it just an additional planning permission to run as SA, or is it a complete use class change?
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure, because it's not affecting what you're in at the moment. But that's certainly something, because ours are already existing. We've got until April this year But I know that some local authorities haven't even got the regulation. And it's the main part of it is safe. So a bit like the landlord registration, you're going to have to show evidence of your gas safety, your electrical certificates, the fire doors, all of those kind of things need to be in place, which, if, we've done that anyway, because we want to make sure that our properties are safe, whether that's for tenants, or for guests. So, from our point of view, it's a good thing. We're already ticking most of the boxes. So it's just going to cost us a few £100 a year extra to have that registration in place. But of course, what it is doing is it means that there are some people where their property is no longer suitable for serviced accommodation. Therefore, they're having to either sell it or, put it back to rental or do something else with it. So yeah, it's an interesting time.
Love it.
And we don't have leasehold in Scotland as well, so it's another reason to invest in Scotland. Although what Hamish is doing sounds really interesting and might be a reason to buy leasehold properties.
There's always an opportunity, isn't there?
Absolutely, yeah.
We love that.
It's good. At the moment, they're not shifting, so if you can take that lease and extend it,
Yeah,
it an easy way of making it shift. And the great thing about dealing with the leasehold is, you're not going to dig into something and find a problem. It's you just need to extend the lease, and that's just a procedure.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting, we like it. So these bigger holiday homes, Wendy, so what are you looking for? Is this kind of like taking on small guest houses and just reverting them back to homes, or what have you sort of, what's the process behind that?
We're looking for houses with 10 or more bedrooms, or we're looking for guest houses which are already operational, or looking for small hotels, with a view for the guest houses and hotels to create more of a self-service offering. With the houses, we're looking to be able to rent for potentially business retreats, wellness retreats, those sorts of things, or things.
Wow. So would you actually look at setting up a business around that, offering those kind of retreats, or is that something that you've looked at outsourcing?
Probably do a mixture. So I'm a business coach in the past, and so kind of that comes with me. So definitely up for kind of hosting retreats where I can share my knowledge, but I'm also connected with influential minds, and they'll come and run retreats there, and also I'm connected with people within the wellness industry, so looking at kind of yoga retreats and wellness retreats and things like that. So it would be a mixture.
Amazing. And do you think that's a growing market? Because I'm just thinking, having everyone has been forced to be sort of tucked away, that sounds like a joy. I'm up for it.
Yeah.
Is that kind of a growth market?
I think companies are looking for ways to kind of take groups of people away, so they can get that team building, and that together as a team, but introducing wellness into it and looking at that kind of whole holistic point of view of people. So I think there's more and more businesses looking to do things like that. And I think people in general are looking for ways to, and everybody's kind of really thinking about themselves personally, thinking about personal development, thinking about that whole spiritual. So I think there's definitely scope to do more of these sorts of places.
Yeah, I was thinking about it, quite soon, shortly after lockdown, where if people aren't going to go back into offices, as a lot haven't, and they're still working from home, there's only so much you can create a cohesive group on Zoom. And you want more than that, don't you? You want to be able to, well, I presume I would, as a business owner. And so it just seems like a great opportunity to go and have these kind of retreats, or these kind of team building or bonding or whatever it is. So but I'm not really in sort of seeing that side of the industry so much. So it'd be interesting, to see do a bit of research on that. But yeah, I like that. So yeah, and then you spoke about crowdfunding. Tell us more.
So we've been looking at
Oh, you
are
keep,
available.
Hamish, does Wendy keep sort of cutting off a little bit, or is it just
every now and then I miss a word or something from
Oh, okay, sorry.
I'm not sure.
Must be the air in Scotland.
You're so high up the country that it's just
Yeah.
very thin. That's the problem.
So far away. So far away.
That sounds better, but keep going, Wendy. We can get most of it.
Yeah, so we're just you know, a bit like Hamish is thinking about working with private investors. We've done some projects with private investors. Now we're starting to look at much bigger projects, and I suppose I've been learning a lot about the regulations around borrowing money from private investors and the challenges you face when you're advertising you know, financial opportunities. And so, I mean, it's quite scary, you know, if you get caught promoting, you know, a project and looking for investment, you could spend 2 years in jail. So, you know, I wanted to find a way where we could do it legally, and crowdfunding was a way of, you know, they provide a platform, you know, they can help with the marketing and the fundraise, and then manage the fundraisers after that. And it's the company we're using, it's an equity raise. So people are buying shares in the company that hold the property. And because it's going to be running as a business from day one, you're going to profit. And then you're also going to get, when we refinance out and buy the shares back, you're also going to then get a share of the uplift in value of the property as well. So two bites of the cherry, as they say. Sorry?
Which company is that?
That's with Leo Crowdfunding.
Oh, yeah. And what property are you looking to do the crowdfunding on?
So this is with the house up in Inverness. That we've got a main lender in place, and then we're crowdfunding to raise the deposit essentially. It'll be able to be up and running pretty much, you know, from day one. It ran as a guest house previously, so the bedrooms are all set up, the equipment's all there. It'll just be where the owners have been living. We just need to put some more furniture in, because they'll obviously take theirs with them, and then it's good to go. And the site's quite a big site, so potentially there's space for some more accommodation surrounding it. So yeah, it's quite an exciting project.
Oh, I love it. And is there any sort of restrictions or limitations on the Leo crowdfunding? How's that sort of working as far as the equity? Because you said that's for the deposits. That's very interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, restrictions in terms of when you're setting up a project with Leo, they are, like every other lender, looking for you to have some skin in the game. So the expectation is that you'll put in, you know, 5 to 10% of your own money. And then you can use the crowdfunding to fill that gap. If you look at some of the projects on there, some of them are raising far in excess of what they require. So, you know, that's great if that happens. You set a minimum and a maximum amount that you want to raise. So once it's hit the minimum, then you can draw down that money and get working on your project. And then, you know, hopefully you go for the maximum and get what you need. So it's so we're in the process. What happens is we create an investor document, and then that gets approved by FCA approved, if you like, by Sharing, who are the company that oversee that. Calculated. So we've kind of tested it a little bit. We've got some good interest, and we're just getting ready to launch it formally in the next few weeks.
Wow, we'll definitely need to speak again on that. That sounds really, really interesting. So it's kind of, I don't know if it's kind of like a sort of a mezzanine type finance that is going in over and above. And is it normal? Is it just a normal, it's not a bridge lending or anything like that, it's just a normal lend, and they're happy for you to have that additional lending in the top part? Yes.
It's not classed as a loan, it's classed as an equity share raise. So you are giving shares in your company, the SPV that will hold the property. so the shares are generally B-class shares. So if you were to buy shares, you wouldn't have voting rights in the company, and the expectation would be those shares would be bought back by, when the project reaches. So we've estimated 3 years to enable us, which will allow us to refinance and get the shareholders out.
So we missed the key part there. I was like, you went, and what we. So you said we say 3 years. You said.
Yeah. So the idea is the project will run for 3 years. Then we'll get a commercial valuation based on the income that we've generated, and that will allow us to refinance onto a commercial mortgage and then buy the shares back from the shareholders.
Okay.
You, shareholder, if you wanted to, leave your money in longer and continue to share of the profits. So that option will be available to potentially extend that if you want. So it gives people who want to, test the water with, and you can invest with as little as £100. And that's what it's nice that it can manage a large number of investors at one time. Whereas, if you were trying to let people give you £100, it could become a nightmare.
So is it kind of like, sorry, Hamish.
Sorry. I was just going to ask, is there then a minimum amount of time that the investors have their money in for? Because if say, I don't know, 20 people decided to pull out 5,000 each, all of a sudden that's quite a lot of money that you're expected to suddenly pay back with short.
Yeah. So what we're asking people, that they're committing to 3 years. So that's the kind of project lifespan, if you like. And at the end of those 3 years, the expectation is that we'll pay the shareholders back. And then what we might do is either allow some shareholders to stay with us, or we might do a secondary raise to develop the site further. But we just want to buy the house and get it up and running.
Okay. Nice.
Wow, that does sound incredibly interesting. I absolutely love that. Yeah, I mean, we've looked at Leo crowdfunding, but haven't really looked at any further, but definitely going to after this. I think that's amazing. Oh, thanks for that share. And then just going back to you, Hamish. Oh, and I know I wanted to say, Wendy, you had mentioned to me when we were talking the other day that having me saying, oh, I'm writing a book, which is a bit slow at the moment, you said, oh yes, I'm a published author. So just quickly tell us about that.
Yeah, so in my past life, I was working as in HR, and I've worked with a lot of startup businesses, so kind of taking them on that journey, setting up HR systems and getting teams together. So I wrote a book, Get Out of Your Way, the step-by-step guide for entrepreneurs in how to attract, recruit and retain a winning team. And it's basically, if you're thinking about setting up a business, and at the end of the day, most of us in property ends up running a business of some sort, and you want to start working with teams, it talks about the kind of things that you need to have in place to really get that team together and create a successful business.
Oh, that's amazing. No, I really appreciate you sharing that, because that's, inherently what I've been talking about all this month, is that remembering that property, it's not just going on a course and then doing a bit of property. It's genuinely a business as well. Yeah. So yeah, I think that is that's
and I think a lot of people start property while they're still doing another job, and it's actually it is a business, and it needs time, and it needs attention. So and the best way to grow it is to bring people in, whether you're outsourcing or recruiting. The more people you bring in, the faster you can grow. So it's
absolutely. I mean, doing this lease extension is not something that I would want to do on my own. The only reason I feel capable of doing it is that I've got professionals who do it as a specialist.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And then, and obviously I'm a huge advocate of virtual assistants. I know, Hamish, you've got your virtual assistant now, haven't you?
I have, yeah. I have my virtual assistant through you for a week now. So far, so good.
Well, we love to hear that, don't we? So so incredibly important. We've literally just got a couple of minutes left. So I do, just before, just hopefully Hamish will give us a quick rundown on his rent to rent essay. But guys, I so appreciate it. And if you've, you know, if we think this might be interesting, I would really keen to get us on here again in a month or so's time and have a chat and an update, because I think I really love just following people's projects. And sometimes you hear about it, don't you? And then it's like, oh, you don't necessarily follow it. So yeah, it'd be great to have you back on. Let us know, guys, if you'd like to hear from them again. Oh, and Scott has given you a glowing review there. Well explained, Wendy. I followed you here and on Instagram. Fantastic. Oh my goodness. And a great Scott. Everyone on here, you know, take a look through. This is a networking event. Go and like everyone. If you think you've got value from us three, you know, go and follow us, look at our social media, all of those kind of things as well. So Hamish, just very quickly, very quick lowdown. Where did you find your rent to rent, and why do you think it's going to work?
Well, actually, this one was presented to me by a deal sourcer. So they put it in front of me, and I did my due diligence on the area. I worked out what we had to take on a nightly basis, and went up, had a look at it. The place is already kitted out. So normally deal sources aren't so great for a rent-to-rent strategy because their fee takes up all the costs. But there were no costs of I didn't need to do any uplift of the property. I didn't need to do any furniture. So that worked quite nicely. And it's in Coventry, which is, you know, got quite an industrial area to it. There's a lot of construction going on here. And there's, you know, the likes of Jaguar Land Rover up here, which is a very large engineering site. So yeah, the idea is to go ahead, and I've got it now. Just started marketing. I've had my first booking in, but not a very big one. But it's something, and yeah, hopefully it's just gonna go get bigger. And as I do a bit more marketing in the next week.
Amazing. Well, look, guys, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you everyone who's joined us today, and everyone who listens on the replay as well. We really appreciate that. And yeah, we managed, thank you Hamish, because of you we think we've worked out what the bloopers are with sharing on the live as well. So I think we've managed to do that all, unless we've been an hour with no sound, which could be the case. But I'm going to end the room now. Thank you so much, guys. Really lovely to see you. And yeah, see you very soon.
Thanks for having us, Emma.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Yeah, speak to you soon.
Bye-bye.